Today we're going to be looking at project documents. And we're going to continue our look at the Bradford Lake House that we've been using in some previous videos. And we're here on our Documents tab. And the first thing we're going to notice is on the left we're going to see a series of folders. Well, what do these folders represent? Well, let's back up a second to explain that. So let's very briefly go back and look at the document setup in Preferences. So in Preferences, under Documents, Template, and Documents Paths, we're going to see some of the pertinent information that controls how documents function. And we will go over in another video how to actually configure and set up these things. But for now, it's sufficient to know that documents are stored on your network in a predefined location. And here we can see the path where that is configured. And then if we go to Templates, what we will see here is very similar to what we just saw in the project a moment ago. The same kind of hierarchy of folders is here. And basically the idea here is once you configure your document setup, when you go into this screen, what you will see here is a live look to this folder. And if we actually go to that folder on our network, we will see that in fact those folders really do exist. This is important because with each of these folders and each of the subfolders, you'll see some options on the right-hand side here. And one of those options is this Add to New Projects checkbox. Okay, well, what does that really mean? Well, what it means is when you create a brand new project, the system is automatically going to go into this defined location. It's going to go into this storage folder, into Project Docs, and it's going to create a folder for every single project in the whole system. And within this folder, you'll find a whole series of subfolders configured exactly the way they were configured in Preferences. And these will be where all the documents that are generated that are related to this project will actually be physically stored on your network for later retrieval. So in the case of the project we were looking at, we saw something very similar to this. Its storage folder has all of the standard defined folders we have configured in Preferences. And if we were to look, we would find that all 5 of these are in fact set to add to new projects. So when we look at our Bradford Lake House and we actually go to this Documents tab, what we see here is also a live look to that storage folder. So if we were to go into that folder, we would in fact see all of these folders and subfolders really do exist there. In terms of actually using this area, there's 2 areas that we want to look at. All the main work is going to be here on your action menu. And by far, of course, the most common will be New Document. So the idea here is you can create a document from one of the predefined templates, or you can in fact actually even make your own templates. But you can take a predefined template that has some special tags built into it, and you can pull data from your database and populate that document all in one very simple process. So we'll just run through that here real quick just to show you. We'll create a letter from the standard letter template. We'll add a contact to it, and we'll choose this person and add. And then we'll give it a title, and we'll call this sample letter. And we'll give it a description. This is just a test. And then we'll go create. And it'll ask us, okay, well, we see you have all these folders. We know that the letter template is a generic template. It's not predefined in any specific folder. So the program will ask you, well, where do you want us to place the resulting document? Well, we're going to place it in folder number 1. And then we'll see a screen will come up. the document is created, and then it will also automatically launch that document. And in this case, all documents in ArchiOffice are generated in the RTF file format, or rich text format. And that is a format that is openable in programs like Word. There's also certain programs on the Mac that can read in RTF. It's a fairly standard format. It's not actually human readable, so you can't open it in like Notepad. You would just see a bunch of gibberish if you do that. But it is fully readable in most of your modern major word processing softwares. So we can see that it did in fact create our letter document, and it automatically pulled in today's date and the name of the person, and then we also had configured some address information that it pulled, and then the basic body, we had it configured to put that person's first name right here. So there's a lot of ways that you can do these types of things to make some of your document generation much faster. And because, as we said, this is in fact a live look, if we now click on folder 1, we can see in fact there's our sample letter. And if we click on our sample letter, it will in fact open once again and show it to us. And there it is. There's also a very spiffy setup in the way this is designed, in that we saw that it found the file right in the live folder on our network and immediately found it and opened it for us so we could very easily see it, make changes, what have you. Well, what if you're out on the road, or you're at the job site, or you're in the airport waiting for a plane? No problem. So the program is set up to be designed in such a way that, assuming that you have configured your installation to be reachable across the internet, outside of the confines of your Office network, this function will actually still work. The program is intelligent enough to realize, oh, you're accessing the program from somewhere other than where the server is located. So it knows that. So when it knows that, it also knows that, well, you logically don't have access to the local folder where the file is actually physically stored. So it's not going to bother to try and open it live. Instead, what it will do is it will do what every program on the internet does, and just simply downloads a copy of that document for your perusal on your local machine. You can't necessarily make changes across the internet. That would be incredibly complicated to implement. But you can absolutely see your docs, work with them. You can in fact even make new docs. The ability to create a document is fully functional even if you're remotely accessing the software. There's also a whole host of other options. We can very easily select a document and delete it, or delete a whole host of documents. And we can tell it, well, do you want us to just delete the link that's displayed in the screen, or do you want us to also physically delete the actual document file from the network drive? Which we do. So we'll select both, and it's gone. You can also add new template folders. So let's say you decide to change your default configuration and preferences at some point down the road. No problem. So if you decide, oh, well, now I need to create a document in one of those new folders that hasn't been added to the storage area for this project yet. So you can come in here and select that, and it will actually display to you a list of all the defined template folders that are not already added to this project. So that can be very easily done. You can easily create a one-off folder. So if you want to just ad hoc a folder that's not necessarily in preferences, you just need to add a folder. No problem. So you can do that. It adds the folder. And if we were to look at that folder in our storage area, we can see that, yes, it did in fact actually create a folder with that name. We can also move documents and folders to another area, as you would expect. You can open a folder window. Maybe you're just a regular user. You're not actually sure where the documents for this project are stored. You can actually click this link, and it will actually locate it on your network and open a folder window automatically for you. Very simple. You also have the option, if you're an enterprise customer, of saying, well, for all of our projects, we want them to store their documents by default in this standard structure. So we have all of our documents configured to be stored at this path right here. And then there's an established hierarchy under that, as we see in this example. But perhaps you say, well, yes, that's fine for all of our normal projects, but for this project specifically, we need to store our documents somewhere completely different, somewhere entirely different on our network, that's not here. You can absolutely do that. So your enterprise customers have this option to set the project folder, and then the program will just simply ask you, well, what is the path? And you can simply put in the major folder where all those docs for that project will be stored, and the program will update itself to now know that's where they're going to be. The only restriction is that the path must be shared through a network share in the format as you see here, / server name / share name / folder, etc. And it will absolutely do that for you. And then one final thing I want to point out is our filtering and listing options here at the bottom. So if you have a lot of documents, some architecture firms just generate a lot more documents than others. If you are one of these firms and you do have many, many documents, well, you may lose track, as we all do from time to time. Well, which folder did I put that doc in? Darn it, I just don't remember. So what you can do is you can turn on your show all as one list option, and then the program will just simply ignore which folder happens to be selected at the time, and it will just show you a list of every document in the system on this project. And then you can in fact even filter that list to say, okay, well, of those, show me only ones of a particular file type, or only ones with a particular title, or has particular verbiage in the title or in the name. All those things are possible. Makes it very easy, very simple to keep your docs organized and cataloged in a meaningful way.